Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the movie Tokyo Story, which I had a lot of fun watching. Old black and white movie from the 30s. So it sort of encapsulates or presents an idea that I've had before from different angles, but it can be boiled down to the same thing. But it presents it well. Very well, and it's one of the few movies that sort of hit me decently hard, right? So I'm not just thinking about what I like, I'm actually legitimately being moved. So when that happens, your core, right, the thing which filters all your other things moves a little bit, and it can move around. And if you're cool, you can do this on purpose, but also it had happened. This is what art's for. It moves your core around, and then everything filters through that new position of the core. Anyway, that was aside. I think the baby's crying. So I'm gonna talk about Josh. The idea of experimentation and making new things, making it exciting, being avant-garde, right? So, and there's kind of two ways to come at this. There's the way of okay, I'm not satisfied with how things were, and I can use music as an example because I'm one of the most amazing musicians you'll ever meet. So you get the idea of experimenting because you're dissatisfied with how things are, or you're just really excited about kind of a new sounding, it could be a plethora of things. You could have this feeling of, I can fit in this spot. I can fit in this spot where I don't see anyone else fitting, or you could be inspired by a different experimentalist and have some sort of novel hump to your actions because of the inspiration. And then alternative to that, and I will say alternative to that, is the idea of mastering a thing and then having your experiment or your new novel experimental things sort of be an emergent of mastery, right? And this is possible because we learn from our previous masters, and so we have more time and better resources, which are their teachings and what they've already done, to commit to mastery of those things, and then a little, just kind of a little more space at the end of the day to add new things onto it. Right, so those kind of things, and one of them obviously comes from a place of novelty or naiveness, and one of them comes from sentimentality, which is kind of the old, if you read the classic essay, naivety and sentimentality or something, right? So it's this idea that's centuries old of Horace was all about copy, who I like a lot. Horace, the classic lit criticizer and poet, etc. In Art of Poetry, he talks about copy the people who've already done it, but just change little bit things, make it you. And then we have this idea of kind of just forging your own path straight from the start and disregarding the old days. And so this movie Tokyo, I think, really hits hard on the latter, right? So that movie kind of culminates for me, and I think it's fairly obvious, on the last couple scenes, even the last couple minutes, where I wish they would have ended it here too, but then for some reason he goes back and he's talking he has the old man talk again, which I thought was odd. I don't get why. So if you know why, let me know. But she, the young girl who was very nice and who was just a wonderful creation of a character, all the characters were in this movie, she goes home, and the train and the whistling of the train symbolizes, traveling to a new thing. But she goes home lifted up in higher spirits than she had ever been. And there's other commentary about how she seemed like she was in high spirits, but she wasn't the whole movie and stuff. But I'm specifically talking about her kind of redemption at the end, the finale of her arc. And she got that by being the only one who was actually paying attention, and quote in this movie it manifested as respecting her elders and just being nice to them, right? So the idea here that it's sort of the harder path and the more difficult one to sort of honor and respect tradition, but ultimately is rewarded with novelty, with growth, right? So real growth. And so on the other hand, we have all the other siblings of the old couple who forged their own path and sort of disregarded their parents, right? Disregarded tradition, just literally disregarded their parents. Were fine to them, but sort of disrespectful, sometimes outright disrespectful. Like when she asked her parents, the one daughter asked, sorry, I don't remember the names. The one daughter asked her parents that just, you know what, honestly, I just want you to not be here because I have a party going on. Just kind of explicitly saying it in outright disrespect. And that sort of in this movie, that sort of would represent the idea of experimenting and going out on your own without going through tradition. Yeah, so there's like who's that one guy? He's a really shitty esoteric philosopher. But he taught. I was listening to Richard Rohr, who's he's fine. He's just a modern theologist, mystic kind of guy. But he was talking about the fallacy of rebellion, right? So you can't really rebel against a thing if you don't know what it is. Now you can that's sort of, I used to really kind of hang on that, but it's sort of not true because it's the same old shit where people would say, oh, you don't really know it unless you experience it. Like, people talk this about different religious things, but it's bullshit because, like, I don't need to know that I don't want to step on this nail. There's no nail. Because I can kind of deduce it from, like, observing from my past, from experiments I've done in the past, that it's going to hurt if I step on this nail and nothing good is going to come out with it, or at least all the bad is going to outweigh the good. So it's kind of a silly idea, but there is a little bit of an idea of, it's like if you start out rebelling against tradition, family, structure, and you strike out intensely for novelty, or even further than that, rebellion, it's sort of fallacious. It sort of doesn't work because you don't understand the thing you're rebelling against. But it's fine, right? Every day is a good day.